What if I told you that something as simple as blowing out birthday candles is actually at the center of a deep spiritual debate? It sounds kind of wild, right? But today we're going to dive into why something so universal can be so intensely controversial for some people of faith.
So, this is the big question, isn't it? Are birthday parties just a harmless tradition, or do they have these darker pagan roots we should be worrying about? And maybe even more seriously, does celebrating a person actually cross the line into idolatry? We're going to dig into all of it. All right, so let's start by tackling the biggest objections to birthday celebrations head on. We're going to look at each one and see what the thinking is behind it. Okay, so this is probably the number one argument you'll hear. Because some ancient pagans celebrated birthdays, the whole practice is spiritually off limits. But is that really a solid conclusion? Let's take a closer look. This is such a great way to think about it. The point here is so simple, but it's really profound. Pagans breathed air, but that doesn't make breathing a pagan act. It's just a fantastic reminder that where something came from doesn't automatically define what it means for us today. So let's apply that same exact logic to another really common objection, the birthday cake. Yeah, you might have actually heard the claim that a traditional round cake is, by its very shape, a pagan symbol. But as you can see here, there's a much, much simpler explanation. Think about it. Dough just naturally tends to get round when it bakes. It's more about physics than it is about pagan ritual. So the idea that a round cake is automatically pagan, well, it just doesn't really hold up. Okay, so if the pagan origins argument is a little shaky, what about the other big one, the charge of idolatry? This is the idea that celebrating a person is basically a form of worship, putting them on a pedestal where only God should be. In this slide really clarifies a super important distinction. It's not about worshiping the person. It's about expressing gratitude to God for the incredible gift of that person's life. I mean, when you see it through that lens, a birthday party can actually become an act of worship aimed at the creator, not the creation. And this idea of celebrating milestones, it's all around us. We celebrate weddings. You could call that the birthday of a new family. We mark anniversaries every single year. And let's not forget, the material points out that God himself set up annual holidays in the Bible to remember important things. So marking time with celebration, that's a deeply human, and you could even say biblical practice. So we've seen that the common objections, well, they don't really hold up to scrutiny. But the analysis doesn't just stop there. It actually keeps going to build a positive biblical case for the practice of marking the milestones in our lives. And this verse right here is the cornerstone of the whole argument. Teach us to number our days. This isn't just about counting, It's a call to be mindful that time is passing so we can live our lives with purpose and with wisdom. It's really an invitation to live intentionally. And if we're looking for a biblical model for this, we're pointed straight to Genesis chapter 5. That whole chapter is pretty much dedicated to listing out the patriarchs and numbering their years. So if God thought it was important enough to spend a whole chapter on, maybe it's something we should pay attention to as well. And this brings us right to the real heart of the matter. The issue isn't if we celebrate, it's how we celebrate. It all comes down to the attitude of our hearts. Is it coming from a place of gratitude, or is it coming from a place of entitlement? So what does that actually look like in real life? What's the real difference between just a regular old birthday party and a truly wise, meaningful celebration? Man, this slide just paints such a vivid picture of the two extremes, doesn't it? On one hand, you've got this self-centered kid, demanding gifts, demanding attention. And on the other, you have the grateful elder, who is just humbled by the love of their family and friends. The focus is completely different. One is all about me, and the other is all about outward gratitude. So, here we go. Here's our new definition of a wise celebration. It's not about praising ourselves, but about humbly remembering that life itself is a gift from God. And it's an opportunity to show gratitude for the amazing people who make that life worth living. This is how we number our days with wisdom. All right, so as we start to bring this all together, what's the key takeaway here? This isn't just some intellectual debate. It's a really practical invitation to completely reframe how we think about these yearly milestones. And the conclusion here is really powerful. It's not just that celebrating birthdays is okay. It's that we're actually encouraged to celebrate each other. It's a real, tangible way to make the people in our lives feel seen, feel valued, and feel loved. So what does this path to a wise celebration actually look like?
Well, it's pretty simple and beautiful. First, we just acknowledge that life is a gift. Second, we shift our focus to gratitude for the person we're celebrating. And third, we use that moment to remember that life is precious and every moment counts. Ultimately, it's all about bringing those two great commandments together. By celebrating a life with a grateful heart, we show our love for God, who gave that life, and we show our love for our neighbor, the person standing right in front of us. And so, that brings us right back to where we started, with that question from the Psalms. But now, it's a question for each of us. As you number your days and the days of the people you love, how will you choose to apply your heart to wisdom,